up, you guys? Just out here in Singapore, and I'm back on it, y'all. Night Owl podcast, and as always, you know I derive all of my inspiration, my words, my fervor, if you will, from things around me, from the people that I interact with, clients, friends, family, random conversations on social media, as well as movies, music, TV series, and even books, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever. I have finally gotten to a place where I'm kind of just wide open and I'm open to receiving. And so I take what applies and just get rid of what doesn't. So actually, that's something that I've heard a lot of light workers say recently. People who deal with tarot and oracle cards, the people who read online for everybody that, do general services as well as do personalized channeled readings for people. So I really love the fact that they say, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I really think that's really important for people to do on a daily basis. So actually, I had the chance to revisit one of these like sticky subjects that I never seem to quite get away from, because it will continually pop up until I receive it and understand it and kind of turn it over and pick it apart, and then really, really take the lesson from the situation. So the sticky situation I'm talking about is this idea of attachment. So of course there is attachment theory as well. But I'm talking about attachment as in, like, when you talk about love and you say, you know what, I love them and I'll do this for them if, when there's an if then statement in love, you are expecting for something to come back in return instead of giving unconditionally because you want to. A lot of times people will say, oh, I'll text them if they text me first. I won't reach out unless they reach out to me first. And I hate that, because it's almost as if you've become conditional. It's almost as if you are trying to protect yourself from being hurt, or trying to keep your ego ahead of theirs, because it's a business transaction. It's not actually love. And so I used to wonder, like, when I had a chance to sit down with Swamiji, Swami Satchidananda is my guru. I had the distinct honor and privilege of growing up with him in my life, not like, just reading his books and listening to him on audio, as in he was a staple in my home. He is a very, very close friend of our family. He basically was like my grandfather, because my actual father's father had passed away before I even was born. So he kind of took that place for me. And I've had so many privileged conversations with him where he would sit in our living room and we would, all share a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and he would just sit and check in on us and talk to us. And it was our own private family memories, I guess you'd call it. It was just, it was such grace, such grace. And the one question used to come up for me all the time was, how can you care if you're not attached? And that was the most difficult thing that I had to wrap my head around, and I didn't realize that I was still dealing with that difficult, sticky situation. In my feeble brain, that is totally stuck in this 3D energy field, I kind of get the impression that if I wasn't attached to the outcome of what you're doing, I didn't care. And that is so far from what is actually true. I can love you to the best of my ability. I can support you and love you and shower you with encouragement and praise, and tell you that you're making a mistake, or warn you, or any of those things out of love. I can do any of those things out of love. But where the love, quote unquote, stops being love is that moment where I decide that you owe me the outcome that I'm looking for. And that's the difficulty. I think that's where we get stuck with our parents, where our parents say, yeah, but I did this out of love for you. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this because I love you. I'm telling you this because I love you, but that doesn't feel like love to you anymore. And that's the part that I really need to explain here a little bit, because it took me a while to really sort out in my own brain. Honestly, when parents say, oh, you won't understand the things I'm going through until you have your own kids, it sounds like a threat at the time. It sounds like a curse, if nothing else. But I really didn't get until I had my own kid. So here's what I've suddenly discovered, or finally realized enough to be able to, like, I think it's quite eloquently state for you to understand. I can do everything in my power to teach, to encourage, to prepare you for life. And that can all be done out of love. I mean, as long as I'm not belittling you, right? Tell you all these things, tell you from my experience, show you, what the world can be like, and let you be prepared. But at that point, once I've told you all of those things, I have to let go and allow you to experience it for yourself, knowing that I've done the best that I can. And this is the part that I think that a lot of parents, especially Indian parents, my mom's generation, has a really difficult time doing because their parents did not do what I'm about to ask them to do now, right? Their parents did not allow them to make their own mistakes. Their parents did not allow them to benefit from their own experience. They had to live their lives from their parents' side of things, from their parents' experience. This is why arranged marriages were more common than love marriages. It was like against the norm to have a love marriage, right? And then, of course, if anything goes wrong, well, I told you so. This is why a lot of parents right now have a really tough time letting go of their kids, allowing them to do for themselves, discover for themselves the idea of success and what is success for an Indian child, for an Indian boy versus an Indian girl. Like all these things are very, very finite concepts, like concrete concepts, and there is no allowing for wiggle room when you talk to your children about what they should and shouldn't be doing in order to be a successful child. Every time you decide to step out of their idea of what a good life looks like, you get this mana maryada speech, right? Whether you're going to ruin the reputation and the honor and the dignity of your family by doing this completely against what everyone else is doing. But they haven't yet discovered that that is a different form of love. That is a more pure form of love. That kind of love is all encompassing. It's almost like, you know what, at some point you're going to have to let go of the bike and let the kid try and pedal on their own without training wheels. You're going to have to trust that they have learned how to balance their body. They've learned how to what other example can I say? They've learned how to feed themselves without making a total mess. And if they make a total mess, you've already taught them how to clean up and that they will clean up after themselves. They have learned how to do their own hair. Like this is going to be a big one for me. Baby girl and I, we spend about 6 hours every Sunday for me to braid her hair. And then it sits there for a week and it's fine. She doesn't have to do any maintenance on it because, you know, it's humid in Singapore, so we're good. But I do touch up her roots every so often in her scalp. But eventually, she's going to have to do that for herself. And I'm going to have to trust that she will figure out a way to do it her way, even though it won't be just like I do, because there is a difference between my viewpoint and hers. Think about it this way. When I do her hair, I get to sit behind her and I see her whole scalp. I can turn her head this way and I can turn her head that way. I can see what the lines look like. I can trust that I will do a good job and it will look neat. But at some point, she's going to have to start doing her hair and she's going to go through, you know, it's a crooked line. I've got hair from this braid tied up in that braid. There's a knot at the bottom of my head. I have no idea how to get it out, so I just cut it. She's going to have to go through all of that herself. And as cringy as it will be for me to watch her and not touch it, as in like not put my foot in it, I'm going to have to let her figure it out. And the letting part is the attachment. The letting part is the attachment. So when I first used to ask Swamiji, well, how is it possible that you love someone but you're not attached to the outcome? Like, how can you love me, right? And watch me make all these stupid mistakes and you know better because you're enlightened and I'm so not. How do you love me enough to let me experience life and not be so attached? How is that still care? How is that still love? And it wasn't until I had kids of my own that I realized, you know what? Yeah, that's absolutely love. And I'm not saying that my parents' way of loving me was not love. It was their version of loving me. There was another step to that they didn't quite get to, but I'm in that place where, yes, inside of myself, I am attached to the outcome. I want this specific outcome for you, but I have to be okay in case it doesn't happen the way that I'm foreseeing it. I have to be okay with whether or not it happens, I still love you. Let me put it in a different context. I know parenting is a little bit out there for some of you guys because you're still young, you haven't even gotten married yet, and it's totally cool, right? But I was trying to make it so that you would understand like a parent-child dynamic because most of you are probably still living at home, right? So let me give you another example. You and your spouse, or you and your boyfriend, girlfriend, okay? You love them. You're trying to figure each other out. You're learning what they like, what they don't like. They're learning what you like, what you don't like. But in the process of learning, a lot of times we don't say as much as we should. We try to show them. And I get that. They say actions speak louder than words. And I totally understand that concept, but sometimes you do need to explain. But here's where your love for them can get you into a little bit of a mess. You need to let them choose you, which means you cannot suddenly feign an illness. You cannot force them not to go with their friends, or you can't talk to this person or that person because, you know, I don't like them and I don't trust them. You've got to allow them to discover those things for themselves. You have to give them the grace and the space to be able to figure out for themselves. You may see something they don't. The best you can do, though, is let them know what you see, and then you have to wash your hands of that situation. You have to allow them to discover for themselves. Now, this is not one of those situations where I'm going to let you find then. I'm going to let you figure it out for yourself. And you know what? Don't come crying to me when I told you so. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they have to make the decision for themselves that they are going to trust what you're saying, or they have to discover for themselves if there's another side to that story. Let me give you another example. Let's say you're newly dating somebody and they got their own group of friends and you got your own group of friends, right? If by some chance your boyfriend doesn't like your group of friends, they need to love you enough to trust that they are your friends for a reason. He may see something completely crazy about this group of friends. It may be a mixed group of friends. It may be boys and girls in that group or whatever. And there may be one or two people that he doesn't like particularly. And it may be because they see something in him that they don't like either. They just kind of rub each other wrong. Or it may be that he's jealous of the amount of attention that goes to them instead of to him. Whatever the case may be, he needs to trust you to figure this out. And if he doesn't want to trust you to figure it out, you all need to have a couple conversations to understand where he's coming from, to understand where your friends are coming from, and decide for yourself what happens. But the minute someone starts controlling you to be able to get the outcome that they want, that's no longer love. That's an unhealthy attachment. That becomes codependency very quickly. I love you. When I tell you I love you as you are right now. I love you. I'm accepting you as you are. Who you decide to be tomorrow, I will love you tomorrow as well. I'm trusting that you will be generally the same, but if something were to happen, my job, because I love you, would be to tell you, hey, I noticed a change. Are you okay? Check in with you and see how you are. My job is not to force you to be the same person you were yesterday. My job as a person who loves you is to allow you to grow into the person you want to be, and just make sure I'm around if I can, as long as it doesn't disturb my peace, right? It doesn't hurt me, it doesn't hurt you, right? I'm not saying it as a condition. I'm saying, sometimes you have to part ways and that's okay. You choose yourself. But what I'm saying is, I'm not here to force you to be my idea of you. I'm here to love you through whatever journey you're on to discover who you really are. And as you grow, there may be things that I do or don't agree with. In that space, I'm allowed to tell you what I am and am not uncomfortable with, right? And then it's up to you what you do with that information. It should be a lot easier to part ways with people than it currently is, because a lot of us are attached. A lot of us have this thing where we've spent so much time together, I don't want to lose you. But it's not necessarily losing that person. It just means that they've grown in a different direction. And as simple as it might be to say that, it's not easy to accept. You will go through a grieving process, but your attachment to your idea of how that person should be, that part is not love. I am attached to you being happy. I want to know that you are going to be happy. Now, whether that includes me or doesn't, that's a completely different story. But my love is not conditional upon me being in your life. My love is there. Just as like the sun is every day. Like the sky is always there, whether it's light or dark, it doesn't matter, but the sky is always there. My love is there. Whether it's active or passive, it's there. I cannot be attached to my idea of who you need to be or how you need to behave or what success for you should look like. My love is just my love. There is no depends on. There is no condition. I hope that makes sense. So when I used to ask Swamiji, like, how can you care if you're not attached to the outcome? He's not attached to the outcome because he's allowing me to become who I need to be. He loves me simply because I'm me. He is not attached. And for a long time, I thought that if I wasn't attached, how is that showing care then? I can still show care. I can continually show care. If there is an unruly student in my class, I can still show care and attention. I can make sure that I don't pull them up in front of the entire class, but I can speak to them privately and ask them if everything's okay. And as long as I can get through and ask them and find out that they're actually opening up and telling me the truth, then I can advise them accordingly and then let them be. They still have to live their life. I can't live it for them. I cannot direct it for them. I cannot, write out the script for them. I can't tell them what to say in every situation. At some point, they're going to have to figure that out for themselves. So in that aspect, I should not be attached. I can be attached to your well-being as far as I want you to succeed. That's it. But my version of that or your version of that, that does not come into play when it comes to love. I love my daughter. Right now, she is a free spirit and I'm happy for that. At some point, she's going to have to learn a couple skills so she doesn't get told off by anybody, and I can teach her those skills. But whether she picks it up now or picks it up later the hard way, I'm not attached to that. I will do what I can for her, and then I have to let her live her life. I have to let her discover it for herself. No matter how many times I've told her before, it can't be one of those, I told you so. I've got to let her live her life. And this is where a lot of families are really falling apart. This is where a lot of people are experiencing domestic abuse within the house because you're not living life the way they expect you to be. You live under my roof, I'm paying your bills, you need to do what I say. That doesn't hold up, okay? That's not love. It's control, it's fear, but it's not love. And this is why I really wanted to talk about attachment, because I don't think people talk about this enough. And I think it's super crucial for teaching people how to co-regulate rather than be codependent on each other. For you to find a way to have great friendships where you're not dependent on how the other person treats you all the time. Where you know that they're going to have bad days where they don't really treat you well, but you can tell, so that means you have to step up and help them out a little bit until they're back to normal. I hope this makes sense, you guys. If you have any questions or concerns, please drop them in the comments. I want to hear from you guys because this is a major concept. It's not going to be something I can cover in this last, 15 minutes. But I do want to hear from you guys because this is just like the tip of the iceberg. But in the meantime, you guys, consider what I've said. You can love a person through anything, right? Their depression, their anxiety, their suicidal thoughts, their difficulties with their family. You can love them through all of that. But the key to really loving them is to get rid of your attachment to how everything should end up. That includes whether or not y'all get married. That includes whether or not they ever come back and see you. That includes whether or not they finally decide they're going to commit to you or not. It doesn't matter about any of those things. You love them because you love them. You love them because you want to. It should not be conditional upon anything. Now, you can love yourself and walk away from a situation that is not serving you anymore, as in, like, it's not helping you grow. It's kind of got you stuck. You can walk away from those things. It's almost like if you have a pair of jeans that no longer fits you, you're not going to force yourself to fit into it, right? You're going to get rid of it. You're going to donate it or give it to somebody or sell it, whatever, and you're going to get a new pair. It's that simple. But because we're attached, it becomes so much more complicated than that. So I hope this helps, gives you something to think about. But as always, I wish you the very best, and I will catch up with you again soon.